I want to welcome everybody to the first episode of Sports Bros. We're all here to talk about sports, talk about everything that's going on in sports. We're just four dudes that like to hang around, watch sports. They like to talk crap about me because I'm the best at everything. But
Listen.
uh, but we got we got me, friend, of course. Up on top of me is Amos. This dude from Seattle. Baller, knows the sports, knows a lot about it. We got the man in our right hand corner, KJ. He's a big Heat fan. I don't know about that Heat. I don't know how to go to.
Yeah.
Hey man, we should have
What's up
got
with that
D-Lo.
East Coast
And
connection?
then the man next to me, Alan. I don't know. He says he's a Green Bay Packers fan, but he's just like in the '70s. That's all he lives off of sometimes. So we're gonna go by that.
Yeah,
but guys,
What's good?
that's what old age gets you. Not only does it get you wisdom, but it puts you in an error bracket.
but today, so right now, so just to start things off, we're gonna start off with the Super Bowl, man. So I'm trying to see what you guys are trying to what you think about the Super Bowl. What's going on? How are you guys gonna spend it? And do you guys think that the two teams that are playing in it deserve to be in there?
Shit. You go ahead, Alan. You started off,
You want me to start it off? Well,
Yeah.
I will
Efren.
say that I think that the matchup it's very appealing to me because it is two number ones. The thing that I always am looking for is who is the most consistent teams throughout the season, and I think these two teams were the most consistent in their conferences. Kansas City kind of walked its way into this final. Nobody was really paying too much attention to them because Buffalo started the year out. Everybody was hammering. There was all this humming about them. But Cincinnati really caught fire, in the second half of the season, and I think that there were a lot of folks that were thinking that they were going to end up in the Super Bowl again this year. But your boy Mahomes actually, he did his thing, and he definitely didn't let Cincinnati get him for what was it, the fifth straight time?
Fourth.
Uh,
It would have been
Four.
his fourth
was it the
straight
fourth?
loss.
It would have been the fourth. No, I think it was the fourth.
Yeah,
Okay, I
because he
But,
thought
was
he
0
I
and 3
thought
against him.
I thought he was
but
0 4.
the way you can't look at it is like Kansas City's been playing good the whole season. I understand Cincinnati didn't start off so hot this year, but do you guys still think that the Eagles walked into this season? They really haven't. The people that say that they played against somebody, they had a pretty hard schedule if you think about it at the end. But the teams they lost to, how did they lose to those teams? Like, let's be honest. Do you guys think it's gonna be a close game, or do you think Kansas City can come out and just blow out that team?
I personally feel like everybody's undermining how the Eagles performed all year. I mean, I know they kind of like Alan said that uh, the Chiefs walked in. I feel like the Eagles just sprinted in. They played a fourth string and third broken down third string quarterback and the Giants, who weren't ready, and it was easy pickings just to get there. They won by what? I think the stat was like they won both games by a amount of like 64-15 or something like that.
And
And
I understand. And I'm sorry for cutting up. I understand what you're saying there about that, but at the same time, I don't. But like a four-string quarterback coming in, you still had that defense
yeah,
in San
that's
Francisco.
true. And he had them tired. They were beating up on him. Like you could see during the game, Bosa and what's the dude's name? Fred Warner were all just they were dead tired by the second, third quarter.
And then
But
beating a team three times in a row is hard too. That's why I'm giving the Eagles their props in that way. But at the same time, me personally, I just go against Patrick Mahomes. We all talked about him being the next Tom Brady. Everybody was talking about that. Let's be real. When they played against each other, all pat pat this, pat that. So why is everybody going against him now? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I
I
don't
feel
see why people are going against him.
I think people are going against him because now he's lost one of his weapons in Tyreek Hill, and he was throwing to like I think I told Amos this or someone. I was like, the dude, one of the dudes he threw like a crucial third down to was someone who had 24 tackles and only 4 catches his whole career. So he's throwing to backups. He was missing his top three receivers against the Bengals besides Kelsey. Kelsey was there, but uh,
What about what about it? Like, what do you?
If I could say something too, let's not forget their lack of a run game. It hasn't been a consistent run game all year. What's his name? Isaiah Pacheco.
rookie.
He's and he's been decent for a rookie. But they still haven't had a strong, consistent run game. With Mahomes, the only thing I would disagree slightly with Allen, you can't. I don't think anyone would underestimate Mahomes. I think he's basically made it clear he's been probably the best player in the league now for the last 2-3 years. So you can't really underestimate them. But I know it was easy to look at what the Bills did, especially in the offseason. The Bengals, of course, beat them, and I was, of course, was tempted to go with the Bengals beating the Chiefs 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, or whatever it was. But
Yeah.
for me, it was more the belief of that Mahomes was actually hurt and his ankle. For him to have a high ankle sprain and then come back a week later and play like he did, it was tough to really expect that. But either way, it was still a 50-50 game, towards the final whistle. And, like KJ said, the Eagles really haven't been challenged at all. And so it really comes down to arguably the best team versus really the best player. And, both teams have experience, but certainly the Chiefs will have a little bit more experience since they've been there more recently a few times.
Actually,
And let me just reiterate something. I said that they kind of walked in. The word that I was looking for was they were under the radar all season. Everybody expected them to be there, but there was none of that explosiveness that they've shown in the past. And I think a lot of that has to do with Tyreek Hill. But they just kind of were under the radar. Like I said, in the beginning of the year, everybody was all on board with Buffalo, and I was even one of those. I had them winning it all this year, to be honest with you guys, and I know you know that. And then
everybody knows
Cincinnati kind of did their thing.
The Cowboys.
Go ahead, Abe. Go ahead.
That was the Super Bowl this year. Everybody knew that.
Hey man, I ain't gonna say nothing about them Raiders, but like you said, what I meant was so what you meant was the Chiefs walked through the regular season into the playoffs, and the Eagles walked through the playoffs. They didn't expect Patrick Mahomes and the Niners or the Chiefs to be here because they thought the Bills would, but they weren't surprised that they're here. We all know that Mahomes
it wasn't a surprise, exactly. And I think if you look back at the season, Philadelphia definitely was the most dominant team throughout the year, even when Jalen Hurts went down, despite the fact that they lost to the Cowboys. And then who was that second loss? Indianapolis. I can't remember. Was it it was the Saints. Yeah, even though they lost those games with the backup, they still were the most dominant team throughout the season, and they even showed it in the playoffs.
For sure.
I think that after seeing the highlights, because I didn't actually see the game against the 49ers, but I think Ephraim was definitely onto something about they did get some calls early in the game that could have gone either way. I'm thinking they could have gone either way, but I think you were onto something when you were saying that there were some calls that might not have been favorable calls for San Francisco.
Yes.
Wasn't there a play where they were it was third down and then they let them do the play and then they called it back because they were like, oh, the clock.
Right, that's the one that I'm talking about specifically.
They got a fifth down or something like that.
Well,
yeah.
Also, the other thing, if you look at the stats and you actually go through everything, all the playoffs this season, the refs have been involved. Let's be real, guys. The refs have been involved. The home team has gone. The home team has gotten most of the calls throughout the playoffs. You can go through any game and you see that there was a big discrepancy in penalties called. Now,
well, I do agree with that, but you got to remember Minnesota had home field advantage, and they got throttled by a inferior team
That
all
is
around.
that is true. That is true. I totally forgot about that
And
game.
it had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with the refs. Really, they just played poorly.
Right. It was a bad matchup too, though. The Giants were really
It
physical.
was.
Well,
It
like,
was a
but
bad matchup. I mean, especially them playing, twice in like 3 weeks.
yeah,
Well, if I'm being honest, if we're being honest too, though, I really believe the NFC this year, with the exception of the Eagles and probably the Niners, it was more clogged up than say the AFC, because to me the AFC this year was specifically a Chiefs, Bills, of course, and the Bengals. That those were probably the most consistent teams that what you would say were in that that elite tier. And even with the Bills, the reason why I was never a full believer, especially towards the end of the season, you guys have to remember they had so many injuries, right? They lost Von Miller, which was probably their best pass rusher. But more than that, they were down to their third string safety with Hamlin, unfortunately, getting hurt.
Mhm.
So their safety situation was really poor. And then, of course, offensively, they've always struggled with a run game. So as you guys know, it's very hard to be super successful if you're a one-dimensional team, and that's what they were pretty much all season.
Very true.
and
Very true.
That brings
and
up a great question, though, Amos. I mean, do you think that the quarterback in Buffalo,
Josh
Oh,
Allen.
Josh,
Josh
oh
I mean,
Josh
Allen?
he's
Do
Allen.
you
doing.
think he is? Do you think he's a top tier quarterback? And the
Oh,
only reason I ask is because I saw something different in him that game against Miami, but it looked like after that he kind of reverted back to where he was last year. He really didn't carry that team like everybody was expecting him to.
I mean,
yeah.
Nick Wright, he had a little diagram or whatever, a graphic, and I agreed with it, and it went number one is Mahomes, number two is Mahomes on one leg, number three is Joe Burrow, and then you could put Josh Allen at four. He,
So
I feel like he's a
so what?
little bit below Joe Burrow because he throws a lot of unforced errors. He throws a lot of interceptions for no reason, and it's kind of like, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or anything, but it's not as bad as Dak because Dak fumbles a lot, but he throws too many interceptions and it's untimely all the time.
Coming from a
But
Cowboy,
I,
coming from a
well,
Cowboy
hold on
fan,
though.
I
Effort, hold
hearing,
on, though.
yeah, go ahead.
So to Alan's, to his original question to me though, I still would say you'd have to give him, an elite. He'd still be in that upper tier if he's a top five, I believe. And when you're talking about, Burrow, you're talking about Mahomes, you're talking about the best of the best. So obviously it's going to be really, we're being very picky when you're talking about comparing the two. Um, Clearly Josh Allen has probably the strongest arm in the league. And for me, to KJ's point, he probably does force things more than Burrow. But the problem with that, I would say, also is when you don't really have a running, when you are the running game, you kind of
right.
are, you probably kind of have to, and you don't really have a running game to lean on like Burrow. But so that's the thing. I think it's really a close call between those two. But Burrow is just so smooth under pressure, and so I think to that point,
Yeah.
it would be hard for me to maybe go Allen over Burrow. But again, just I just think at this point though, it's Mahomes and everybody else.
Yeah, and everybody behind him, that's for sure. And I guess maybe I'm being a little too hard on Allen, but I think that the only reason that he actually is elite is because of the fact that he's so mobile. We've never seen a guy,
For sure.
that was 6'6", 270 pounds that could throw the ball, from end zone to end zone and then actually outrun most of the guys on the field too.
Or lay
So
out
what?
linebackers.
What
Right.
What
is
were you gonna
Duke?
say, Efren, about the Cowboys being a Cowboys fan?
Well, like you said, like these guys, we're talking about Dak Prescott and all these top elite quarterbacks. The difference between all these quarterbacks is that Patrick Mahomes makes the smart play all the time.
Well, yeah,
And
that's kind of what I
It's
was gonna
it's
say
all right
about.
here.
That's what I was gonna
yeah,
say about Amos because Amos said
all
that it's hard to give
all
Josh Allen.
what we're talking about. But let's be honest too. Jalen Hurts has done that this year.
Yeah.
I might be and I might hate on the Eagles, but Jalen Hurts has proven it that he's not there to cost his team the game.
Well, and it's also like it's more less Jalen Hurts and more Patrick Mahomes because Amos said
So
that
that's
he can't really blame Allen because he doesn't have a run game. I'm looking at it right now. The Chiefs
but
have
how
the
can
the Chiefs have the 20th run game, and he doesn't make the same mistakes as Allen.
you not put Jalen Hurts up
And that's
in
why
the top?
Mahomes is the best in the league, right?
Yeah. What were you
Yeah,
saying, Efren?
but how can you not put Jalen Hurts now in the top 4?
Well, no, I'm not saying he's not in the top four. What I'm saying is that because he has a great run game, it's more impressive Mahomes doing it without a run game, and it's more credit to Mahomes that he's a better game manager than Josh Allen because Josh Allen doesn't have a run game just like him, but he makes more mistakes,
Okay,
and he
I
has
understand.
better receivers. Let's be
But
honest.
do you
Gabriel
think?
Davis.
Do you
Gabriel
think?
Davis would be a number one on the Chiefs right now.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think though that Josh Allen, because of the fact that he has such a strong arm, that he forces a lot of stuff
No, that's
because he
what
thinks that he can get the ball in there?
Yes and
Allen.
no.
Well, I would say, hold on, Allen. It's kind of like Matthew Stafford. To me, it reminds me a lot of, you trust your arm a lot more, and you think, oh, well, I'm the team, right? Because Josh Allen, when you think of the Bills' offense, obviously you have Diggs, but I mean, Josh Allen, you think of Josh Allen as the guy, and I think it is kind of that mindset of, hey, I gotta get this done. I don't have a running game to, carry me or to help me per se. And then, of course, receiver wise, again, you have Diggs, you have Gabriel Davis, who's pretty good, and he probably would be the Chiefs' number one. And even Gabriel Davis will consistently have games where he just disappears. And so
Yeah,
I think where Josh Allen really does have to, let's be honest too, though, when you're that talented, when you're that, when you've always been the best of the best, you think you can kind of get away with it. It's that Brett Favre, it's that old Brett
right,
Favre mentality. Right?
right, and that's exactly what I was saying. I think that a lot of times because of his talent, his arm talent, he forces a lot of stuff that he shouldn't be forcing, and that goes back to that mentality. He definitely needs to be more aware of those things.
Yeah,
Yes.
and earlier Efren said something about how like uh, for the last few years that Mahomes has gotten so much credit, and it seems like people are not giving him as much credit now. If you think about it, he's been in the league 5 years. He's been to 5 AFC championships. He's been to what, 2 Super Bowls, and he
This
Three
should.
is
now.
This is his third
this is
one. He should have been
Third
to
one.
a fourth one if Frank Clark doesn't go off sides against the Patriots.
very
He
Yeah,
true.
you're
so
right
he would
about
be
that.
in 4 Super Bowls in 5 years, and but I mean,
That's why
I personally don't think team wise that they're gonna win this year. So he'd be 1-2, but I honestly think he would have beat who was it that the Eagles played, or I mean that the Pats played. They played the Eagles that year, right, in 2018.
would have been
I think the Chiefs beat that team easily with Nick Foles as the starting quarterback.
very true.
So he would
No,
be
I don't know about
so
easily, but I think they would have had a better
no,
shot
no,
at it.
no, 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 no. Time out. You're getting your years mixed up. 2016 was the Eagles, not 2018.
no it wasn't.
2017 was the Eagles.
Are you
2017 then, yeah.
2017 was the
are
Eagles.
you sure?
Okay.
Because I
Yeah,
No, it was 2018 because I started in the summer of 2017. So they won it in the early year of 2018 because I was there at Horizon.
I mean, just look it up real quick. I can't look it up.
Well, no, I was there. I remember I had it all up on the screen and we were watching it with Mario and them. Um,
Well,
but I'll
just
look
do me
it
a
up.
favor. Yeah, just look it up. Yeah, I'm saying you have your screen in front of you. Just look it up real quick. Yeah, I'm curious then.
But okay, but nice talk. I'm glad that
Yeah,
we're
February
getting.
4th, 2018. That's when they won.
So my next question for everybody is: give me your predictions. What do you think? What do you think this game's gonna come out to? Is it gonna be a blowout? Is it gonna be a back and forth shootout? Our defense is gonna step up and make it one of the boringest Super Bowls in the world. let's let's figure it out. Let me know, Amos.
well,
Give
no,
me
I think that would actually be kind of fun to watch. Is if they actually did, if they actually could stop each other's offenses. I think that would be an excellent game myself.
your
I don't think
defense.
that's how it's gonna work out,
Actually,
but
sorry, not to cut you off, but now you're right, Amos. It wasn't the Eagles one that he was in. It was when they beat the Rams, and it was that shitty defensive one where they was like 9-3 that year.
Because
It
that was
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
what
because
we
that was
don't
his
want.
first. That was his first year starting, I believe, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
Second year in the league, yeah, and that's the thing. His first year starting, second year in the league. I mean, he's literally been, the guy basically. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
and here's something, guys, that you got to think about too, is that this kid, he grew up in major league ballparks. His
right,
dad played for 5 different major league baseball teams. He was around greatness all the time. And I think that's the difference between, that's the difference between him and everybody else is trying to catch up to him. Now, Joe Burrows is a different sort. I mean, that kid is, man, it's just mind-boggling the way he is able to keep his calm and see the game. It's almost like like we talk about Luca, how it just everything slows down for him. He sees everything. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure where that comes from, but you got to remember Patrick Mahomes has been around greatness all of his life. I mean,
right.
not that his father was a Hall of Famer, but Pat Mahomes wasn't a bad pitcher.
You're a
Yeah.
professional, basically. You're
Yeah,
a professional.
absolutely.
well,
You're taught.
and I feel what's his name? Hurts, he's not that great of a quarterback, but he's got that mentality. He's a coach's son. He's just like Mahomes. Mahomes has been in he's been in different situations where he's been around greatness and seen it, but Mahomes or Hurts knows the game inside and out because he's been taught that from a young age. I see like I would say Josh Allen's a better player in terms of that. Like you could even say Justin Herbert's got better talent than Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback because he knows the game inside and out. But if we're
No,
going,
and the one thing that Jalen Hurts has done too is that we overlook is he's improved every year that he's played the position in the NFL.
yeah,
You
True.
know, he
last year he
he's
went
he,
from what a terrible 4-win team to then playing
yeah,
Brady in the playoffs last year and losing to now he's in the Super Bowl.
You gotta
to
remember this.
leading the team. I mean, they got him some weapons, and now he
But,
looks.
but one thing also you guys gotta remember is that he's been beating and I know he's been coming out on TV and everything, but Jalen has been beating the odds. Look what
Yeah,
happened to him. Then he had to go to Oklahoma. He
yeah,
took that team to Oklahoma. Then he got drafted to the
But
Eagles.
he's been in great programs the whole time. Oklahoma it
Yeah,
was quarterback you.
yeah, that was
Didn't they have 3 consecutive Heisman Trophy winners?
they did.
well,
It's like,
And
okay,
and then and then he was at Alabama before that. And Alabama for the last 15 years or so has had the number one recruiting classes. So the kid he was highly regarded coming out of high school.
yeah,
Well,
so
and let's
well,
hold on. Let's also be honest too. As big as Josh Allen is, and he's huge, Jalen Hurts is probably the strongest quarterback in the league, especially because everyone all knows about his squats and how many
Yeah, physically. Yeah. Yeah.
and
well,
so
back,
to go back to that national championship game, I mean, he's always been a really good teammate. If you fold in a pressure situation like that, you would think it's easy to give up or never be heard from again. And he obviously clearly bounced back. But I would just say, he's definitely in a perfect situation. He's proven this year that he's easily a top at that minimum top 6, top 7 QB in my eyes, and we can go more in depth with QB rankings later on. But I would just say that team around him offensively, not even talking about the defense. I mean, he probably has the best offensive line in the game. What Kelsey is doing this year,
oh,
it's insane. He's going to be 33 years old. If you look at his PFF ratings, he's insane. What is it? What's his name? Travis? What's the right tackle? Sorry, Lane Johnson,
Yeah,
oh,
Johnson.
stud. Jordan, I can't say his last name, but Jordan left tackle has been really
yeah.
good. So his offensive line, I think I want to say PFF has him rated number 1, and then of course the tight ends are always good with the Eagles, and those receivers getting AJ Brown in the offseason, that was a huge addition. And I mean,
Devontae Smith ain't no joke either.
He's
and
not.
that's the thing.
Or what's his name?
He's
Ain't no joke.
Yeah.
He was a
saying
Heisman Trophy winner, right?
right,
Yep.
he was. So he has the perfect team around him. So he definitely gets a little help, but it's also him. It really is him. It really it's a combination.
But so let's go back to what Efren said for like our predictions. For me, I'm looking at it right now. The Eagles got the second best offense. The Chiefs have the number one. But the Eagles also have the third ranked defense to Kansas City's 12th. The passing is Kansas City's got the number one. The Eagles have the ninth, but the Eagles have the fifth best rushing to the Chiefs 20th. In all stats but passing, they're either neck and neck with the Chiefs or they're better. But
So let me,
they also have that experience in Kansas City. They've been to it so many times, and the Eagles haven't been here, especially most of their players. You have, like you said, AJ Brown from the Titans or anybody else who's been on this team. They haven't been there in 5 years. So you got to give that experience edge to Mahomes. I personally, it's hard for me to pick against the better team or the experienced team, but I feel like the Chiefs, especially since Mahomes has had 2 weeks to come back to heal that ankle and everything, I feel like the Eagles aren't prepared to play a team that's fully healthy and that really, really belongs there. I'm not saying the Giants didn't, but they were just outmatched. I have the Chiefs winning by 28-24. And I think it
Can
comes down to Mahomes making a crucial drive. I think it's going to be kind of like that Bills Chiefs game. Mahomes is going to do something with the last, or I mean, Hurts is going to do something in the last 5 minutes, but Mahomes will do something in the last minute 30 to get him a win.
So KJ, maybe I'm mistaken. Just for us and our viewers, did I believe I thought you said earlier on that you believe he was going to be 1-2. I thought you said you was going to lose Mahomes.
Well, no, I'm saying
Yeah,
even if he were to lose this one, he would be 1-2, but he should have been 2-2.
gotcha. Because making sure, because I thought that was your prediction earlier on that he was going to lose. I thought you said that. So I just clear
I
that up
I
then.
I want. It's hard for me because I want Hurts to win, but I want there to be some kind of conversation between Mahomes and Brady later on in his career. And if he doesn't win this one, I feel like it's going to take a lot for him to even get back into the conversation with Brady's legacy.
So
just
it's the
like I,
Chiefs for you then. Well,
Yeah,
hold
Chiefs
on,
for
hold
me.
on. Well, to that point, it's tough. With that point you just made, KJ, I hear you. I think it can go 50-50, right? Because to me, if you make the Super Bowl that often this early on, I mean, he's only going to
Yeah.
have many more years to keep going to Super Bowl, right? So that's why I disagree with you.
But
But same,
if you look at
uh,
it like Efren says about LeBron, and I'm not
and
throwing
that's
Efren on the bus. If you lose this many times in the Super Bowl, how great is it?
and that was my point that you cut me off that you didn't let me finish. So
Sorry,
that
go
was
ahead.
my 50, and you're good. That was my 50-50 point though. So to that point, you're going to keep going back to the Super Bowl. But to my next point, what you just said was yes, it's the unfortunate. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Efren. It's the unfortunate LeBron debate, right? It's
Yeah,
the well, you went to the Super Bowl, but you lost, right? So I hear you. It's you have to obviously factor that as well. So I just think it's 50-50. It's going to be dependent on your opinion of it. But yeah, I hear you. As far as my predictions, guys, real quick, I think it's going to be a really close game. It's basketball. I generally will go with the best player. The final game, I will go with the best player. But in football, I try to go generally with the best team. And so I just think the Eagles, both sides, have just been the best team all year round. And man, Mahomes is a bad dude. So I feel awful. I feel sick going against Mahomes. But I just think when you look at the Eagles, I believe it's 4 guys that had 10 sacks or above. I believe Hassan Reddick has had 3.5 sacks already in the playoffs alone. So the
Yep.
pass rush is fierce, and we know the Chiefs are going to be throwing it. The corners from the Eagles are no joke with Slay and with Bradbury, who had an absolute career year as a free agent going into free agency this coming season. So their corners are locked down. And then just the offense we already talked about. I just think the Eagles are going to try to bully the Chiefs. I do think the Chiefs have an underrated defense. I really do. So it's going to be tough for the Eagles to consistently score against the Chiefs. But I just think overall, I have to go the Eagles. My final score prediction, I'd have to say, give me 27 Eagles, 24 Chiefs. Final score.
and good points out there. Very good points, Amos. I'll let Alan go next.
No,
I want,
you go ahead. You go ahead. I'll go last.
okay,
I'm
so
interested to see what you have to say. Actually, after Amos actually kind of stared you
I,
down there a little bit.
I and I about
We'll get
uh,
to LeBron. We know it. We all know it will come. But we'll stick
and
it to
like I
football
told
for
you
now.
guys, LeBron. I know we talk about LeBron a lot at work and stuff. Sorry, LeBron. Sorry. Um, but like you guys said, we've been watching greatness, right? We've been watching greatness. So how can you go against this man? He's proven that he can win these type of games when he's hurt. He did it 2 years ago. He did it. He did it. The thing that happened when he went to the Super Bowl against Tom Brady the last time, his left tackle and his right tackle were hurt. So he had nobody protecting him. This year it's a lot different. This year his whole offensive line is healthy. That's what you guys got to remember. His whole offensive line is healthy. Like you said, 2 weeks to prepare. Hey, he's gonna get a shot on that leg. He's gonna do everything possible to make sure that leg is good to go. I just don't see that the Eagles, when they played a good offense, struggled. Their defense struggled. When they played against the Lions, only won by 3 points. High-powered offense. When they played against the Saints, ran the ball up their throats, but still put points up, beat them that way. The Dallas Cowboys played them, put 40 up on that healthy defense. That whole defense was healthy. And you know what the Cowboys did to hurt them? They used the tight ends. What is Patrick Mahomes going to do? I believe he's going to use all 3 of his tight ends to win this game. So the way I look at it, each defense scores a touchdown. But final score for me, 38-35, Chiefs winning it.
Blowout.
It's going to be, 38-35.
Not blowout, but like a high-scoring game, my bad.
I feel like both of these defenses are going to try to prepare too much, and it's going to be for no cause. And there's going to be... Go ahead.
No, you've honestly. I mean, even though we slightly disagree, I do like a lot of your points. Honestly, you did say a lot of good as far as, especially specifically, when the Eagles were going against certain high-powered offense, they did struggle a little bit, but you kind of expect that, the better offense you're going. Let's also remember too, the Lions were red hot towards the end of the season. They were scoring on everybody.
Yes, but sorry to interrupt you, but when they played against the Lions, it was week 1.
Okay. Well, no, for sure. But then how then that's fine. But how much relevance does week 1 play then too? Then to that point, right? So it's tough. It's tough either way. But I'll also say the one thing I do kind of slightly disagree with you. So the Chiefs' offense is healthy, offensive line, but yes. Orlando Brown has struggled decently this season. The tackle, pretty decently this season. And you got to remember, the Eagles' best defensive weapons are their edge guys. So at the end of the day, I just think it's gonna be a really good matchup. It's you did say I'd say majority of points I do agree with, but I do think that is a weakness of the Chiefs still. And I think the Eagle. I guess I would just say it's the Eagles' strength is going to be a lot better than the Chiefs' line to me. But it's going to be tough, man. It's like you said, hard to go against Mahomes, and you were absolutely right, man. He's already proven in tough situations he can get the job done.
And
like I said, go ahead.
Before you do your prediction, Alan, I do got some awards that came out. We will talk about that after yours thing. But to Amos's, to his prediction, I forgot Mahomes has played pretty bad in Super Bowls. He's 2 touchdowns to 4 picks and 2 fumbles. And I mean, he had one great stretch against the Niners when they were down 10, and that was pretty much it. Both other games, he's just been okay. He's been passable. So that's kind of to Amos's point. But like I said, I feel like this year he's got to change. He has to prove it, and I believe that he will.
So thank you for saying that, KJ. Because in that Super Bowl win against the Niners, he had no run game at all.
It still doesn't.
No run.
Yeah.
Like Tampa Bay, like I said, he lost both left tackles. You don't have no tackles to protect you. But like Amos said, Orlando Brown has been struggling. So I believe that's why I told you. That's why I believe they're going to use their tight ends a lot more for a lot more screenplays. When you have a defense that has a lot of good edge rushers, what's their main thing? The Niners would have them. They like to cheat a lot and try to come up, and all he has to do is do a little dump offs.
Well, you also gotta see, like, they had a lot of, like, what happened to Purdy? They put up a tight end. They put up one of the best blocking tight ends against Hassan Reddick, and he blew him up and hit Purdy, and that lost the Niners the game.
and I understand that, and I could understand that. But at the same time, I don't think Kansas City is going to do the same in that perspective, or do we believe so?
Yeah.
Like Kansas City, Andy Reid is a smart coach, and we all know. I didn't think he's
top
here.
5 all time.
Yeah, talking about the coaches. All we done is
Even though he has the same record, pretty much the same record as McCarthy.
yeah.
Even and we don't talk the same way about McCarthy.
Yeah.
No, we don't. Because, but why? Because look where Andy Reid has his team all the time compared to McCarthy.
No, I mean I completely agree with you, man. I mean he that's probably the two things that I think are going to be the differences is going to be coaching. Sirianni, I mean he's done some great things, but he's never been in this situation.
Well,
And like you were saying before, the tight ends, I think the tight ends are going to be a major part of what Kansas City does.
Yeah.
Oh, they have.
And the Mike McCarthy thing, though, and no offense to the Cowboys, but he's gotten 25 empty wins the last 2 years. He's gotten 25 empty wins based off of
his whole career, except the year that they won the title in Green Bay, was pretty much empty wins.
True.
Okay,
true.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that everybody wants to use him as the comparison, because I keep hearing a lot of things about Sean Payton and him having basically the same record, one Super Bowl win, and a lot of victories, but they really haven't done a whole lot. I mean, I don't know what the big deal is about Sean Payton. I hope that, only because I like Russell Wilson, I hope that he can actually straighten that whole thing out. But I don't really see him being all that great. He had some freaking great talent around him when he was in New Orleans. Drew Brees was a stud, and I think San Diego was foolish for letting him go.
They believed that his arm wasn't going to be okay. It backfired.
Well,
of course it did.
I'll just say this though: you guys got to remember with Sean Payton, he had a lot of talent, but he's a QB guru, right? And so, who's the guy? And I'm spacing on his name. You guys are gonna have to help me out. The BYU quarterback. Who's the guy that got him that contract? Who made him look like he was, right? Who made him look like an actual decent QB to get that type of contract? What was it? What's the name?
The tight end.
Yeah, no, the tight end / QB / running back. Remember, he got a fat contract.
Taysom.
Yeah, and it was mostly for throwing, and so like he didn't get a normal position contract, is what I'm saying, right? And it was
you're absolutely right. And that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, I'm much bigger on Andy Reid than I am on Sean Payton.
Right. No,
and they basically all three of them have the same records.
You're right. It's banking on Russell.
One Super Bowl win and a lot of victories.
They're banking on him fixing Russell Wilson. That's all I think it is. It's he's a QB guy. I hear you're right. I just think they went all in on Russ. And what's crazy is this trade not only has cost them picks, it's cost them basically having to make this trade for Payton, which you could say is good if it works out, but it also costs you what? 4 first rounders now?
Well, yeah. Like you look, I think the Broncos are in the same position as the Browns. They put all their money into a quarterback before they could see him play, and that's where they messed up.
They did, but you guys got to remember, I don't believe they did. I think when you lose your starting left tackle, your best left tackle, that's supposed to protect you, that messes up your whole offensive line. Russell was going in thinking that he was going to have, and remember, week 1, you guys, Seattle did what they had to do.
Who's their receiver that they lost?
Who's their center?
No, who's their receiver that they lost?
Patrick Turner. It's Patrick something. I'm pretty sure it's Patrick Turner, the slot guy. It was the slot guy they lost in preseason.
Okay. Zertan, is that his name or?
No, that's the corner.
That's the defensive back.
Who's my best corner in the league, by the way, just to say that real quick. But to Efren's point, though, you are right. They lost, was it Bros, the left tackle from Utah? But you got to remember, Efren, you're talking about Russell Wilson, who always had a bad offensive line, who had Russell Okung for how many years? Hold on. For how many years did Russell Okung get on the injury report and was out for half the season? You got to remember, Russell Wilson also had a year where he had what? Not Noah Fant. What's Fant's, the left tackle that's playing with the Jets name? I'm spacing on his name, but they basically a tight end who is he plays for the Jets. He plays for the Jets currently right now. He's a free agent though, but he was a tight end, and they converted him to a left tackle. And that same season, while the offensive line struggled, they still made the playoffs. And so I hear you. You're right. Obviously, you lose left tackle, struggle. But all I would point out is Russell Wilson has always had a crappy offensive line, and specifically, he's always had, unfortunately, injuries at the left tackle position.
Tim Patrick was the receiver that they lost for Broncos.
Tim Patrick.
But
yeah,
we're getting a little off topic.
We are actually.
We need Efren's
we've
predictions.
really gone. We've really gone a little overboard on that whole situation. Let me just give you my take on the game this weekend.
Let Efren do his prediction real quick, because he hadn't give out his scores.
He did. He said 37-34.
Oh yeah, 38-35. Yeah, I remember. Okay.
Chief, Red Kingdom. I know you guys used to be the Cowboys back in the day. That's why I'm cheering for you guys too. Remember that, guys. Dallas is gonna win another Super Bowl this year. They're just naming you Kansas City. Remember.
All right,
Save it for another day, man. Save it for another day.
Alan, you go ahead and do your point.
Yes.
All right. So I think that everybody's made some excellent points both ways, and I myself wouldn't typically bet against Patrick Mahomes. I think that they actually are. They have a better team this year. They've been healthy on the offensive line. The defense has played better than it has in the past 4 years. I think that there hasn't been the consistency that they've needed to beat a team like Philadelphia. I know Philadelphia has a lot of inexperienced talent on that team, but the one thing about it is that it's talent though. They led the league in sacks. They have 4 guys that had double-digit sacks. They've got strong middle. They've got strong linebacking crew. They got strong defensive backfield. If they can run the ball against Kansas City, I don't see Kansas City beating them. It's about the run game for me. I think that's going to be the biggest difference. If they can run the ball like they had the past 2 games, Kansas City's not going to be able to stop them, man. They're just going to roll down the field, and I think it could get not necessarily ugly, but it might be a bigger upset than people would expect. Because I know a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be a 3-4 point game, but I honestly think that it's going to be they could actually beat Kansas City by 2 touchdowns. I'm thinking, because the way their defense plays, I would my prediction would be Philadelphia 31, Kansas City 17. And I think it's just because Philadelphia has been the most consistent team all year long. They've done all the right things. They just have a more complete team to me, than Kansas City does. And like I said, Kansas City kind of was under the radar all year. Nobody really they weren't as explosive as they have been, even though they did put up some points against a few teams this year. They just didn't dominate everybody offensively like they have in the past. And so I'm taking Philadelphia, and I think they're going to win by 13, 14 points.
What's the score?
31-17.
31-17? Okay.
I mean, I'll just add, that's what they've been doing all postseason. They haven't played the Chiefs or Mahomes, but I mean, they've done it right all postseason. So I hear you. I think that's
and who fell on Mahomes' leg? It was his own teammate, wasn't it?
No, Jacksonville.
He got it was the Jacksonville. It was what's his face? Because I thought for some reason it was his own player, and you talked about Brown. being inconsistent. I mean, they haven't been able to keep the defense off of him. Even his mobility is the one thing that kind of saved him throughout the regular season, but in the postseason, it actually kind of
And what
dwindled.
happened? What happened to Burrow last year in the Super Bowl? He kept getting hit and ended up what? Jamar Chase was wide open for a touchdown at the end of the game, and he got sacked, and
Yep.
that lost him the game.
Yeah.
But the difference between that team and the Eagles is playoff experience.
Yeah.
Rams.
We got two people for the Chiefs, me and Efren, and we got two people for the Eagles, Amos and Allen. So
I'm glad it's the two old people.
That's right. That's right. That's called wisdom, brother.
Last time I
I
checked,
done seen a lot. I done seen
last
a
time,
lot.
hey, put it
And
this way.
that's
Let's be honest. All three of us are old. There's only one guy in here that's not old.
yeah, that's true.
yeah, and that's Allen.
You do got a point. But but the sad part of that is that all three of you are old enough to be my kids. All right.
Hey, just be lucky that the guy to your left isn't, right? Or to your right. Sorry.
Exactly. Because then I
Okay.
wouldn't have anybody to get mad at when he talks about my guy.
Very true. Very true. Talking about your guy. Let's just finish it up. Just little things. Hey, this NBA trade deadline has been very crazy.
Well, hold on. Before we get into the NBA, I just want to tell you I got some notifications, so I just want to let you guys know. So, we got all the awards out right now. So it just came out. Justin Jefferson has won Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh my God.
Nick Bosa won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep. Target.
That was a gimme. Yeah, that was a gimme.
What's his name? Brian Dable won Coach of the Year for the Giants.
That's good.
That was a gimme.
And
that was a gimme.
Amos will be happy to hear that Geno Smith won Comeback Player of the Year.
Ow!
Who else? Who else, Efren?
He had the league's best completion percentage this year.
Let me give people context. All right.
If we're gonna do Comeback Player of the Year, we're going the Prince, Mr. Trevor Lawrence.
Well, okay. All I'm saying is I had to get abused by this guy Efren daily. I was told Geno Smith is your starting quarterback. Okay, yeah. I get it. I get it. But I was abused. All right. Now he gets the most. And look at Efren. Look at him now.
Why does Allen get abused for being a Packers fan? Because of RJ. Why do you get abused for being a Seahawks fan? Because of Jacob. It's just what happens.
You guys are over here.
Thank God I have Cody Miller as the only other Raiders fan.
No, there's actually a couple other guys that you haven't met yet. They're newbies.
I've seen a couple Raiders hats.
But yeah, Amos, to your point is what did he say before during the preseason? No more than 3 victories. No more than 3 victories Seattle was going to get this year.
We had Geno
Smith. I agreed with him though, and the biggest, and I have to apologize too because I said that Carroll was done. He was done, and obviously he's not because he did wonders with that team this year. I mean, I would have completely blown out of the water how well they played this year. Completely blown out of the water.
Hold on. There's the first and only time, Amos, you're ever going to hear me say this, okay? Your Seahawks, they proved to me that they can win games when they need to win games. But like I told everybody, you guys would choke at some point of the year. But you guys did win 9 games and make the playoffs.
Well, I hear you. In fairness, though, but the choke part, though, come on. No one really expected us to even get to that part. We didn't really have a lot of talent. And I think to that point, like Geno Smith, right? And I know we're kind of joking with each other, right, Efren? But to that point, like Geno Smith, right? We all thought the Seahawks were going to be so bad because we had Geno Smith as our QB, and then he comes in and ends up being what was it, KJ, with his percentage? But basically,
best in the league with 69.8, so basically 70% for the year.
Wasn't for him that's great. You know, he proved a lot of people wrong, and like you said, Everybody wrote him off. That was true.
Yeah,
But
everybody's
now
saying what Drew Lock was going to start, or they
But
were going to trade
what?
for somebody.
But woulda, couldas, and shouldas. The thing about it is, guys, is what happens next year. If he can't follow it up next year, then it really
but the
doesn't
thing is,
mean a whole lot.
he's going to be in
But
Seattle.
I'll say this
I
though, Alan, his paycheck will say otherwise, no matter what.
No, you're right. You're right. But Amos, there's a lot of guys in the league making fat paychecks that are not very
Dak
good.
Prescott.
For sure. Yeah, no doubt. I think it's a situation though where this is his last chance to get paid. Everyone knows this, but I just think, and I'm not saying this biasly, I just think it's one of those situations where he's probably more valuable to the Seahawks than to a lot of other teams.
Absolutely.
And the thing about the Seahawks, you guys have to remember, yes, you got a truckload of value for trading Russ, but they also didn't want to pay Russ a lot of money. So now let's say they find themselves in a situation now where, oh no, we have another QB who might not be asking for top 3 money, but oh my gosh, he's going to be asking for top 5, top 6. And as we've seen now most recently, teams just do not win when your QB is making top 3. You guys know what it is.
Yeah.
I would be curious to know what Mahomes' number is, if it's the last year of his rookie deal or not. But
Mahomes signed that 10 years,
No,
500 million.
Mahomes signed that extension, bro.
Remember, he signed a baseball deal for the NFL.
right.
Yeah.
So, but is it the first year this year, or was it last year? The first year of it.
I think last year.
So I'm just saying though, if it's this year, this would be probably one of the first years in a while. Then you've had someone making so much money, then that actually wins.
But
basically.
the thing about Mahomes' contract though is that there's a lot of money that's paid on the back end of that. Even though it averages out to $50 million a year, a lot of that money is paid on the back end. So and I was actually even reading something about the fact that it actually can fluctuate based on the needs of the team. So
his
he
thing
definitely
started
got
in
paid,
2021.
but he also took into consideration that you know what, I can't be the reason why we can't sign somebody.
Yep, and that's the thing. So I think the more
Unlike
appropriate,
Aaron Rodgers, who with his
right.
dumbass, wanted all the money in the world and then sacrificed the best receiver in the league because of it.
I guess the more appropriate question would have been that how much is this cap space hurting the club this year, But I mean, you don't have to look it up, KJ. I mean, I would be curious myself though what the actual cap hit on him this year is. But that was a really good point, Alan. These players get these large contracts, and you really can't mess around with them as far as putting on the back end, putting their money towards a signing bonus. So ways to kind of play around with the cap space.
Absolutely.